Multilingual Redditors. What is your "they didn't realize I spoke their language" story? I'm American, but can read and speak Russian on an intermediate level. A few years ago, while visiting St. Petersburg, I was buying tickets for the hydrofoil to Peterhof. All the signs at the ticket booth were in Russian, and I could read the ticket prices. The ticket agent assumed I didn't know Russian and tried to tell me the ticket cost 3 times more than the stated price. I looked her right in the eye and said in Russian, "I see on the board here that the ticket I want is X rubles." Her jaw dropped, and the ticket agent sitting next to her started laughing her ass off. I've heard this is pretty common in Russia. You have your locals' prices and your tourists' prices. Said something like, "You need to be careful when talking shit about someone in your native language. There might always be someone who understands you," in German while I was in Italy. A woman who was walking by responded, "Like me, for example." The people at the Chinese food place on my campus spoke Chinese to the door exchange students. But even though I spoke Chinese, I just always spoke English to them since I have an accent when I speak Chinese. But one day I got all meat, no rice since I had a rice maker at home. And when I was paying, the lady says to the person beside her, "Fat ass wants meat, no rice." And I responded in Chinese, "Actually, I have rice at home." They didn't charge me for the order and started giving me a bit extra whenever I go there. Me and my friend were sharing a cab with 2 girls we didn't know, just decided to share a taxi with them because it was a long way and we wanted to save some money. They started speaking Swedish, not knowing my friend is also Finnish Swede. Her mother language is Swedish. She has been in Swedish school but is Finn and speaks Finnish fluently. I understand Swedish, but I was too drunk to care. Suddenly she texts me, "They are planning to leave us with the bill." I texted that we should tell the driver, so my friend just said, "These girls will pay half of this before they leave." He got the hint and didn't open the doors before they paid. I lived in South Korea for 3 years, but I never learned too much of the language. A friend of mine is 100% Korean, but is very tall, and was educated in America and New Zealand, so she has an American accent. Her co-teachers at her school all assumed she couldn't speak Korean, so they would talk shit about her constantly while she would listen on and feel terrible. She said nothing for a whole year until she had to speak at the end of year ceremony. The school offered her someone to translate, but she refused, and in front of 800 or so students and faculty members, she delivered her address in perfect Korean. She subtly called out the co-workers that had spent an entire year calling her a foreign pig. Apparently, one started crying from the shame of it. I wish I had got to see that. When I started working at McDonald's at 16, none of the other employees realized I could speak a fair amount of Spanish. A few of my coworkers would talk crap about me in Spanish, and I pretended for a few weeks that I didn't know what they were saying. Then, one day, a manager told me she was worth me than me because she was bilingual. So I told her, in Spanish, that I was actually trilingual. The looks on their faces when they realized I spoke Spanish all along was priceless. I'm Swiss and Peruvian and live in Peru, so I don't look at all like a Swiss guy. There were 2 Swiss girls sitting behind me on a bus talking about Latino guys. Then one of them asked the other if she found me attractive. I turned around and said that I would love to know that too. The look of confusion and shame was priceless. Then we just all laughed. Now I've got 2 new friends. Edit. They were speaking Swiss German. Edit 2. They both later confessed that they found me attractive. It was in Germany, and a middle school teacher asked me to come in as a guest for one of her English classes. The teacher introduced me. I said hello and that I was from the US and happy to be in their class. The teacher said, "So, do you have any questions in English for an American? What do you think an American is like?" One of the kids near the front says in German, kind of under his breath, but definitely loud enough that most of the class can hear, "Fat and stupid!" The kids laugh. The teacher turns bright red. I don't know what to do, so I just say in German, "Of course, many Americans can speak German." The kid almost shit himself. He looked like a baby deer that had wandered on stage at a Beyoncé concert. I thought he was just being a dick and had intended me to understand what he was saying. Apparently, though, he actually hadn't thought through that an American in Germany in their language class might actually speak their language. I was shopping with friends for clothes. and these two ladies that worked at the store were outside of my fitting room speaking in Spanish. They kept criticizing me for taking so long to try on clothes and referred to me as dumb gringo, and jokingly asked me if I needed any assistance, in English. They didn't realize I was Hispanic until I came out of the room and responded in Spanish that no, I didn't need their help. They got so red.
Want more? Subscribe Blah Blah Hero.